Daenerys Targaryen is a dragon from the east. In this video, I want to discuss several predictions I have for her in regards to Season 8, as well as two theories that you may or may not have missed. Let's begin. Before we get started, I want to ask you guys if you could please do me a favor. Slap a like on this video, and then make sure you're subscribed so that way you get entertained throughout this long night. Also, make sure notifications are turned on all the way. If you want an in-depth history of where the ancient Valyrians hail from, go ahead and click the link and check out this video right here. I did an interesting theory where I proposed that ancient Valyrians may have had their DNA mixed with ancient aliens. But click the link down below in the description or the link right up here. Okay, so when we're looking at Daenerys' character as a whole, it's kind of easy to predict the route that she's going to go. What is not easy to predict is whether she will die and what her final scenes will be like in Season 8. I honestly see something happening along the lines of she'll arrive in Winterfell with Jon Snow, and they're not going to be greeted with open arms. Jon will, but everyone, for the most part, is going to be curious as to why this dragon king is with him. And it's not going to take long for him to explain that, look, if it wasn't for her, I'd be dead right now, as well as everyone that left with me to go north of the wall. She saved most of us. It's a no-brainer that they will eventually warm up to her. It'll just take a few episodes. The part that I find a little bit of trouble predicting is how she's going to react when her and Jon Snow find out the truth of Jon Snow's lineage. Now, she's had sex with her nephew, and she could potentially be pregnant. She also has extremely strong feelings for Jon Snow because not only in the TV show, but in the books, literally it's set up from the very first book that Jon and Daenerys are going to be together. It's a match made in heaven, and now that we see them finally consummate on the TV show, well, that's probably a spoiler for the novels. I think that yes, it's going to be a bit of a shock to both of them, but ultimately Daenerys is more in tune with her Targaryen side, and she'll realize that her family had long since passed sister wives in order to keep their bloodline pure. So something like dating a nephew that she was unaware of is not going to be too much of a traumatic experience for her. I think Jon is going to have more trouble in dealing with it, mainly because his family has been fighting the Lannisters for so long, and part of the reason they're fighting the Lannisters is because of the incest. They know that Robert's children are not Robert's children. So I've said this before and I'll say it again here. I would not be surprised if Jon is able to find some sort of common ground with Cersei because of this, especially once she finds out of his true lineage. Daenerys being pregnant is a dead giveaway. It was set up several times in Season 7 with Jorah mentioning to Jon that when he tried to give him back Longclaw that no, you should save it for your future heirs, give it to your children. And then also with Daenerys and Tyrion, when Tyrion mentioned to her that the most important thing is procuring an heir for the future. And maybe it's time she started thinking about that. Now, I definitely see Daenerys doing some heroic pregnant mom things next season, but the question has to be asked is if she is pregnant, where is she going to have this baby? Because the Long Night is coming, the Night King is coming, and he's going to destroy and kill everything. So it's not exactly safe for her to sit around and be pregnant. She's got to be very active during this pregnancy, and I think at some point we're going to eventually see the childbirth. Now, here's the part where things get interesting. The one person who is qualified to deliver Daenerys' baby, well, there might be a few others, but the one person that we've seen do this before is Maester Wolkan. Now, if you remember, he's the Maester that was actually at Winterfell when the Boltons inhabited. He delivered Roose Bolton's child with Fat Walda. The fact that he delivered Roose's baby is not sinister in and of itself, but if you read the novels, you're aware of the Great Grand Maester conspiracy. I've actually done several videos on this, but to sort of summarize here, the Maesters are against magic. They know that whichever ruler is on top, if they have magic on their side, it's going to be an uneven and an unfair fight, and lots of casualties will be lost because of magic. Magic, or fire magic to be specific, incarnate is the dragons. The dragons are fire-made flesh, so anyone who has these dragons in any future wars are going to have an uneven advantage, and the Maesters, for the most part, we all think that the Maesters help destroy not only the dragons at the tragedy at Summerhall, but also I think that Maester Pycelle was poisoning the Mad King Aerys from the very first day that he showed up. It doesn't really make sense of why the Mad King, before Pycelle had arrived in King's Landing, Mad King Aerys wasn't exactly mad. It seems almost as if Pycelle was poisoning him, and it gradually just got worse and worse, which explains why his case just kept escalating. In my opinion, the Maesters are up to no good and need to be stopped. So, now that we have Maester Wolkan, who is a legitimate Maester from the Order at the Citadel, I would not be surprised if, I guess before I say this, go ahead and throw on your tinfoil cats. But I would not be surprised if there's a small possibility that one of the last surprises we may see is that Maester Wolkan does something to harm the pregnancy of Daenerys. Like maybe he poisons her, and he just realizes that if Daenerys and Jon Snow have a child, that child may eventually grow up and conquer the world and bring it to its knees again, and maybe even bring another version of Aegon the Conqueror, ultimately leading up to a Mad King Aerys type situation. Their blood is tainted because they kept it pure for so long. So it may not even be by his own, hate that he needs to, he's just going to automatically hate Daenerys and he is going to be everything against magic, but it could be in his order. Like, it could be something passed down from the top, and he just has to follow these orders blindly. Now, I know this theory kind of comes out of left field, which is why I said to put your tinfoil caps on, but there's got to be some reason why Maester Wolkan has had the scenes that he has had. Like, I understand he's a maester at Winterfell, but he had those several scenes with Roose and the Boltons, and then also he's the one that's reeling around Bran Stark. So what may make him lead into thinking that dragons are bad and that there needs to be an end to this is Bran himself. Bran could realize that by the end of this war, magic either needs to be completely destroyed or it needs to be suppressed. And one way to suppress the fire side of magic is by destroying dragons. So if Daenerys does not have an heir to further on the line of Targaryens, then there's less likely going to be a chance that someone is going to conquer Westeros and cause thousands of casualties and bloodshed by using a dragon. Now, you're probably like, what would prompt Bran to be like, hey, let's destroy Jon Snow's happiness? Well, Bran has been focused on nothing, because Bran died in that cave. Three-Eyed Crow is the one who is existing in Bran's body. Like, yes, it could be a merging of consciousness, but Mira said it perfectly. Bran died in that cave, and he's no longer who he is. He is the Three-Eyed Crow inhabiting Bran's body. It's almost like a pseudo version of possession. Since the Three-Eyed Raven is taking over Bran's body, it would be super easy to sacrifice Jon and Daenerys' child in order to save all of mankind. You guys let me know what you think about this crazy tinfoil theory down below in the comment section. I'm sure we are going to debate it. Now, I don't want to sit here and predict every single thing that Daenerys is going to do in Season 8 because this video would be something like 57 minutes. Instead, I kind of want to just focus on some obstacles that she may face. Now, one thing that Daenerys has done that I kind of don't agree with, and as soon as she did it, I'm like, homegirl, you're going to be regretting that. And Daenerys is my favorite character, so I can pretty much get behind almost everything she does because I have the fanboy in me sort of putting blinders over to some of the more corrupt things she does. But one thing in particular I'm talking about was at the very end of Season 6. She left Daario Naharis, a sellsword, who is her former lover, a scorned lover at that. She left him in charge of what could potentially lead to, hundreds of thousands of people, and he's a sellsword sitting the throne at the Bay of Dragons. Does that sound like something Daario Naharis would want to do? Nope. I initially predicted that Daario would be a stowaway on one of the many ships that are in Daenerys' fleet, and then he would eventually pop back up, sort of show up in a room, and they'd make love and just sort of make up then. But that's not at all what happened. Instead, she got with Jon Snow. Instead, she fell in love with Jon Snow and is now about to most likely have a child. Daario Naharis is not gone from the picture. Like, he was gone for an entire season, but lots of characters have been gone for multiple seasons, and then they make an appearance. I think, for the most part, next season, stuff for Daenerys will be going great. Like, I think she's eventually going to get over, finding out about Jon Snow's true lineage. I think she may actually have a successful chance at happiness, but something that's going to throw a wrench in that is Daario Naharis. A longtime theory of mine is that as soon as we found out last season that the Golden Company was going to be coming over, well, that's a sellsword company over in Essos. Who is one sellsword that we know for sure is over there? Of course, Daario Naharis. Now, one thing that Jorah mentions to Daenerys, right? I think it was Season 2, but he mentions to her that before he came, no, it was actually Season 1. He mentions to her that before he started working for her brother Viserys, he was actually in the Golden Company for 10 years. There's no way that line was a throwaway. That's going to most likely be shown in the pre-episode recap right before this happens. I predict that Daario is going to make his comeback as the leader of the Golden Company, and he's going to side with Cersei, if not for the only sole reason that Daenerys is with Jon Snow. He may even try to have a parlay with Daenerys and explain to her that, look, you give me the word, I'll be your king, I'll be by your side, just give me the word, I'll go and betray Cersei. Of course, Daenerys is not going to want Daario back by her side because she now has Jon Snow and they are ice and fire. Daario is going to be scorned, and there's likely going to be some massive falling out between them, and he may end up either killing one of Daenerys' dragons or killing someone very close to her, like Missandei. Another option for this little theory of mine is that if Daario is not in fact the leader of the Golden Company, he could just be a higher up in the Golden Company and command a small force that he leads to go and sort of warn Daenerys of what happens. Of course, Jorah is by her side, and we've had a little bit of foreshadowing to a fight between these two, almost to the death. You remember when they were searching for Daenerys back in Season 6 when she was taking to Vaz Dothrak, they kept sort of hinting at the line that, you know, Jorah's older, he's out of shape, he couldn't even handle riding the dragon, and the two of them are pseudo ex-lovers, Daario being an actual ex-lover and Jorah being Captain Friendzone himself. So I think there's a possibility that these two may have a showdown, and in the process, Jorah obviously defeats him, but is mortally wounded, and this is how he dies. In service to Daenerys, sacrificing himself so that she could have eternal happiness. Well, whatever eternal happiness is in A Song of Ice and Fire. If you want to know a little bit about my predictions for Daenerys and Jon's child, you can actually check the link down below in the description, and that'll take you to a video I did a few months back about how their child may secretly be a shadow baby. I know, pretty crazy, but yeah, check that link down below in the description. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could please slap a like on this, the like goal will be 100 and 420. Also, please leave me a comment down below and let me know what you want to see. I'm thinking on continuing this theme with predictions for all the major houses in Game of Thrones, and that would naturally leave either the Lannisters or the Greyjoys to be discussed next. I want to thank you all again so much for watching. Super special shout out to my Patreons over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. Without you, all these kinds of videos would not be possible, and I want to thank you all also so much for watching. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's Reviews. I haven't done one of these funny Easter eggs in a while, but I bet you that Daario theory blew your freaking minds!